The story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Hi folks, John Cordisco back again with another great chess video for you. This is a great game, a very good game, 2 Russians. It is the tiebreak game from round 6. This is game 2 of the tiebreaks. 25 minutes plus 10 seconds, rapid. The first game between Andreikin and Tomashevsky, I guess they're really good personal buddies, was drawn. This is game 2 of the first round of tiebreaks. It's a great game. These two young guys have everything on the line. Whoever wins this game goes into the finals of the World Cup, which is currently being played in Tromsø, Norway. It's a big deal, especially for young players like this. Even if they don't win in the finals, the last 2 players left goes into the cycle for the candidates final in 2014 for the World Championship. This isn't even counting the money, which is substantial this far into the tournament. So Andreikin has white. He's rated 27-16. Tomashevsky is black and he's rated 27-06. These guys are world-class players, and they've been through a long, grueling tournament. And I think both of these guys have been in every single tiebreak in every single round. They're young, but they're not invincible, as you'll see. We'll continue on. It's going to be a Slav defense. Like I said, Andreikin is white, Tomashevsky is black. Your typical Slav. Knight c3, a6. c5 really secures this square here. f5, bishop to f5, bishop f4. It looks almost symmetrical. I did want to mention that anybody that wants to watch the quote-unquote live video, I watched it on DVR. If you don't know the results, it's the same as live. The website for all of the prior rounds, if you want to watch any of the videos, partial rounds, all the interviews, is chessworldcup2013.com. That's chessworldcup2013.com. A lot of good stuff on there. If you don't watch it, you're missing out. After bishop to f4, the queen knight goes to d7, e3, g6. I'm not really so keen on that move, frankly. It blocks in the bishop here, I think. We'll see how it works out. Queen to b3, queen to c8. h3. Now I'd be afraid that the pawn will go here. That would be my fear. Bishop to g7. Bishop e2. Castles. Castles. This is a pretty decent position. I like white a little bit better, to be honest with you. I think white's bishops are much better placed. The dark squared bishop here is outside the pawn chain, so he's a little more effective. On that h3 move, of course, he can always retreat to here. This is white's quote-unquote good bishop. I'm not so keen on black's bishop, to be honest with you. Knight to e4. Now, you see a lot of these world-class players when there's either pawns in the center or pieces to be exchanged. Novices like us try to figure out what happens after the exchange. A lot of these guys are just building on their position. Rook A to C1. Rook to E8. You keep the tension on the board. Knight takes. Bishop takes. Pawn takes wouldn't really do much good, to be honest with you. He loses a good center pawn here, and this pawns here are doubled. Bishop takes. Knight to G5, hitting the light squared bishop. And black just casually goes knight to F6. He gets his knight in a better spot. Bishop to E5. H6, hitting the knight. But instead of the knight taking the bishop on E4, white plays bishop takes. E takes. Knight takes. Rook takes. I'm not so sure on the E takes. I kind of like bishop takes a little better. I didn't want to double up that pawn. But these guys are world-class players. Who am I to second guess them? Rook to bishop to F3, chasing the rook. Rook back to E7. He doesn't go all the way back because later he'll probably want to bring his rook over and develop. H4. Now, it's going to be a pawn storm. It looks like there's going to be on the king side for black. I think H4 is to help prevent some of that. He goes F5 anyway. G3. It's a place, I think, for his bishops guarding some key squares here in case he has to go pawn up. This bishop's in a good spot. Queen E6. King to G2. And here comes the pawns. G5. Black's making his move. H takes, H takes. Queen to D3. The queen's coming back for offense and defense both. That's a good move. Currently, there's a tiny, tiny advantage for white. I think in the last few moves, black's has slowly, not huge moves, but tiny step by step, has improved his position enough where he's even with white now. F4, here he comes. E takes, G takes, G4. Complicated, complicated. We have a backward pawn here. We have double pawns here and here. They all have their weaknesses. We have opposite color bishops. Queens and rooks are still on the board. This could be incredibly complicated. At this point in the game, I remember watching the video, you could see the tension on their faces. Granted, you don't see much emotion on their face, but you can just feel the tension. There's a lot at stake for these young men. I believe Andreikin is currently the Russian champion, and that's nothing to sneeze at, considering Russia is probably the biggest chess country in the world by numbers and quality of players. Peter Fiedler, who's been knocked out in this tournament, was a 6-time Russian champion. That was a huge upset. By Tomashevsky, I believe. I'm not certain though, but I believe it was Tomashevsky who's currently playing black. G6. Now, slowly but surely, black is now slightly ahead in position according to the computer. I know it's a computer evaluation. It's just to prove a point that I think in the last few moves, slowly but surely, black is improving his position, while white isn't really doing poorly. He's just not doing well. Now, what he's hoping is queen takes, pawn takes. Would straighten out black's pawns, get the queens off the board. Black has the file here. He's in good shape. Rook C to D1, guarding that queen. A5. Interesting. I think at this point, it might behoove white to get rid of the queens. But he went rook to H1. Now he's eyeballing some action here on this file. He wants to double up his rooks. On the only open file he's not on, black occupies the E file, so he's going to try on the H file and go after the position on black's king. Rook A to E8. Now, interesting enough, I don't care for this move, but the computer suggests queen to f5. I don't care for it. I like the move white made instead. I believe it's much better. And that is rook to h5. Covering some key squares. Rook to e1. Interesting move. Interesting enough, if queen had taken, rook takes, rook to e1. And oddly enough, that's a advantage for white, but I don't see it. That poor white king looks awful boxed in there. I don't know if I'd really enjoy that. This rook right now has really nowhere to go that's really worth anything. He can't get down here to help out this rook. I still like black's position. You know, the computer says no. Rook to e1, rook takes, rook takes. If queen had taken at this point, in case you're wondering what would have happened, rook takes, check, bishop f8, rook checks, queen to g6, has to, rook takes, f takes, rook to b8. And to tell you the truth, you're down a rook, game's over, and all your pawns are going to fall. By a weird coincidence, 1, 2, 3 pawns are on light squares, and you get a dark squared bishop. You're doomed. After rook takes, queen to d2. You've got to chase that rook off. He can't just sit there. Rook to e8. Now, it shows a small sequence here. It looks very tempting to go rook here to b1. And with this tandem in the back, with pawn guarding this square, it looks like a mating net. After queen to b1, queen takes a5. If queen had taken f4, rook to g1 check, king to h2, queen to f1. That bishop saves the day. Saves the day. Because queen to e3 saves everything. So white's king looks boxed in, but that light squared bishop is doing extra duty to protect the king. After rook to e8, queen does take, rook to f6. I think black's starting to lose the position. Now it's black that's slowly losing the position. It's about a pawn and a quarter advantage for white. Even though white's up a pawn, this position is still up in the air. There's a lot that can happen. You've got an attack here on black's king with the rook, queen. This pawn is for free. This rook controls this file. This queen can get in. It can go either way here, I think. Queen to f6. Rook to g5. I like that move a lot. He's planning on going g5 and just bust open the position. Black's queen's running out of defensive squares. And this is where Tomashevsky, as black, makes the first error. Now everybody thinks just take the free pawn on d4. But we all know in chess, as in life, there's nothing free. The computer suggests two moves. Queen to h6 and queen to g6. Stay in the location of the king. He plays queen takes d4. If he had played queen to h6, queen to c7, queen to e6, I think he would have been much better off. After queen to d4, queen to c7, here comes white's queen. Everybody's focusing on this square f7. He has to get the rook off the file. Now, the only file that he owned, and he owned it clean, he does not own anymore. It's jumped up dramatically in score. It's almost 2.5 points advantage for white. And if you look at the material, it's dead even. Queen takes, queen takes. Now you're going to see something you don't see much at this level in chess. You're going to see 4 question mark moves in a row. 2 from each side. White makes the first huge mistake. He goes queen to d7. Huge mistake. He should have went to c7. And after queen to b5. If he had taken, bishop takes, queen takes, rook takes, c takes, and black is doomed. Queen takes, and that's the end. After queen to e7, the position basically is screaming out. I know he needs this bishop here for protection. He needs to grab this pawn. He doesn't. He plays queen to c2. 2 question marks in a row. After bishop takes b2, queen to c7, queen to c1, a4. You've got black can come back with his bishop, black can come back with his queen. He's got plenty of protection. And currently this queen is guarding this pawn. I think black's okay here. After queen to c2, you have to go queen to c7. You have to do it. Another double question mark. g5. It looks tempting, but it's a huge mistake. After queen to c7, queen takes b2. If bishop had taken, bishop takes, king to g7, queen f4, c takes, rook check, king to h8, queen to h2 check, queen to h7, rook to h5, queen takes, king to g8. And black is doomed. What do you do now? You're white. This could be your entire career. These both guys are in their 20s. You're going to be in the candidates final for the world championship. And you make a couple of errors. Your opponent makes a big error. Now it's your turn again. You need basically just a pass here. He should have went a4. Or maybe queen here. It's almost a pass. Instead what happens is he goes bishop to d4. Big mistake. Another question mark. 4 moves in a row. a4 is much better. After bishop to d4, bishop h5, queen to e4, rook to f3. Looking bad for black's king here. King to g7, queen takes. Now, under the pressure of the situation, Tomashevsky is black. Finally makes the last blunder. Queen to c7. Huge mistake. He should have went king to g8 instead. But I think the game is lost anyway. After queen to h7, queen takes, queen takes, queen takes check, king to g8, rook to h3, and black resigns. What will have happened after rook to h3? He has to take this pawn. As soon as he moves, it's mate. So queen takes g5, check. He has to check him. The rook blocks, queen takes, king takes, and the game is over, of course. Tough loss for Tomashevsky. I know that Andreikin is his buddy. They're personal friends, but this is war. And it's your future, at least in chess as a professional. So congratulations to Andreikin. You're going to have a 100% Russian final in the World Cup. Kramnik got through by beating Lagraf, or I should say Maxime Lagraf, in game 1 of their tiebreak. Maxime just blew it. Just totally blundered. And in game 2 they drew, so Kramnik goes through. So I know Andreikin's really excited to get in the final, but when he thinks about it, he's going to have to play Kramnik. Good luck to both the players, especially the kid. This kind of pressure makes you old quick. Anyway, folks, that's today's game. I hope you enjoyed it. A lot of pressure on these guys. You know, it's funny, you sit and watch a chess game, and you walk into a room if you're a chess player, and you can feel the tension. Non-chess players will never understand that. And that's why they'll never love chess like we do. I want you all to remember that if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. And I hope to see everyone in the next video. And please comment. And I please want to thank the many subscribers that have come on the last couple of weeks. I personally appreciate it. And those of you that haven't subscribed, please do. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.